have ourselves a top 25 matchup in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Just X'd out my notes there, but that's okay. I'm going to go do all this right off the top of my head here. So let me say this about I want to talk about the Alabama and the Florida game. So Florida, for people who have not been paying attention, Florida is actually ranked this week. They go to Alabama. Let me start with a couple things really quick. First of all, and I said this on Monday's Aaron Torres pod. By the way, we don't have a point spread yet in this game. But Alabama, listen, I know I said it on Monday's show, but let me say this. I don't think we're giving Alabama enough credit for this season, okay? And the bottom line is, listen, I know that Nate Oates, because of what happened last year, there's a lot of doubters, a lot of detractors, a lot of people that either don't like him or don't think he handled the situation well. And we've talked about all this a million times over the last couple weeks. But like what Nate Oates has done this year, I think is nothing short of incredible. Because when you look at this Alabama team, I'm just going to be blunt. I don't think there is a single place where they are as good as last year. Now, last year they were just awesome, okay? Last year they obviously run through the SEC. They get a number 1 seed. They lose to San Diego State. But you look at last year versus this year. Look at last year. I would argue they had better guards last year. They did have Mark Sears, who's still there, but they had Quinterly. They had Jaden Bradley. They had somebody else I'm blanking on as well. On top of that, they had rim protection with Charles Bediako. They were a better three-point shooting team. They had an elite NBA talent in Brandon Miller, who is tearing up the NBA right now. So tell me the place that Alabama is better this year than they were a year ago. I don't think there is one. Mark Sears as a player is better, but the pieces around him are not better. And I think Nate Oates is doing as good of a job as anybody in college basketball right now. Listen, Dan Hurley would probably be my national coach of the year. But if Alabama wins the SEC, I know there's a lot of love for Lamont Paris at South Carolina and a couple other guys, maybe Todd Golden, whatever. I think you probably have to give the SEC Coach of the Year to Nate Oates because I think they were picked to finish sixth, I think fifth or sixth in this league. So when I look at Alabama, they are exceeding expectations. They come into this game with a one-game lead in the SEC standings against Tennessee. Tennessee, by the way, beat Missouri on Tuesday night. Ugly game, but they get a win. But let's go ahead and talk about Florida for a second. So Florida, as I said, is in the top 25. And listen, let me say this. Torres gets a lot of stuff wrong. Over the course of a week, month, year. That's why we do Aaron Right, Aaron Wrong every single Friday show. But at the same time, I was keen on these Florida Gators a little bit ahead of everybody else. Okay, so by the way, for people just joining the live stream, we are previewing the Wednesday night game, Florida, Alabama. We'll get to Kentucky, LSU in a minute. But with Florida, they played a game probably about 5 weeks ago against Georgia. They had a huge lead, go to overtime, they blow the lead, they end up winning in overtime. And I said at the time, I said, that is a top 20 team in terms of talent in college basketball this year. If they don't make the NCAA tournament, that is on the coaching staff. Why do I bring it up? It is because the next game they went to Kentucky and got the win. They have since won 3 of 4, including crushing Auburn at home, beating Georgia for a second time, and they have now won 7 of their last 8 entering this game, which is, again, a top 25 matchup. Now, in terms of what intrigues me, a couple things. One, a lot of really good guards in this game, okay? What does John Rothstein say about Miami? More guards than Shawshank? I mean, I guess you could kind of say that about this game too. What I like about Florida, they have 4 guards who I think are as good as basically anybody's guards in college basketball, except for maybe like Kentucky and UConn and whoever, not very many. But Walter Clayton, he was the St. John's transfer that Pitino desperately wanted. Frankly, the Iona transfer, I should say. Pitino desperately wanted to bring with him to St. John's. He's at Florida. He's shooting 36% from 3. Zion Pullen, a transfer from out where I am in California, 40% from 3, 15 points, 5 assists per game. He has been, to me, one of the big surprises. And so 4 really good guards for Florida. And they're also an elite rebounding team, okay? They average 44 rebounds per game, which is just an insane number, including Tyrese Samuel, who averages 8 per game. So great guards, great rebounding. And then you again have a balanced team with Alabama. Now, it's hard to speculate too much on how, what I think a final score will be in this game. We don't have a point spread yet. I obviously lean Alabama at home. First of all, Alabama has been unbelievable at home over the course of this season. Alabama, as I just mentioned, they have been just crushing teams at home. They beat A&M the other day by what, like 25 points or something like that. Let me make sure I pull up the correct final score on that one. They beat Alabama, or they beat A&M by literally 25 points. They beat Mississippi State, which is trending as a tournament team, by 32 at home. They beat LSU by 19 at home. So this team is just destroying everybody at home. Now, I do think there are a couple things that are worth keeping an eye out for here. They are not as good in the paint as Florida. I think Florida has the size advantage, but Alabama also has the three-point shooting advantage as well. Alabama shoots the ball at about 39% in this game. Florida is a good but not great three-point shooting defense. And so if I had to make a pick, I like Alabama at home, and I just think we're going to get a lot of points. I think it's something in the neighborhood of like Alabama probably in the high 80s, low 90s, Florida in the low 80s. I'll say Alabama wins like 90-82. But I think these are two of the top 25 teams in the country. This will feel, well, I mean, it won't feel like an SEC like semifinal because it'll be in Coleman Coliseum. I think it'll be a great atmosphere. I do think Alabama wins.